Say hello to the big, beautiful world. It is Tuesday morning here on the morning buzz of the fall of 2020-21. But that being said, it's getting colder. It's going to be the winter soon. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm not looking really forward to that. Anyway, we got a show for you today. We got news about the polls, as tonight is indeed the gubernatorial election for the governor of New Jersey. We have talks about the climate changes or the climate conferences going on in Glasgow. And we have an interview later with Ryan Breda about the aforementioned election night. But until that time, I'm your host, Kyle Pepitone, joined with my co-host, Jacob Goetz, our newscaster, Ali Aurario, and our sportscaster, Campbell Donovan. Good morning, everybody. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Jake Campbell?
I'm doing very good, Kyle.
Great to hear. So, like I said, we got stories for you. But before we do that, Ali is going to take it away with the newscast. Ali, what is going on in the world?
Thank you, Kyle, and good morning, everybody. My name is Ali Aurario, and on this magnificent Tuesday, I'm joining you from 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. In national news, for the third time in history, forecasters have reached the end of the Atlantic storm name list. This tropical storm, which is called Tropical Storm Wanda, formed in the Atlantic Ocean on Saturday and Sunday and is expected to gain more power over the course of the next few days. Forecasters are now trying to figure out an alternative storm naming system for the rest of the year. Now segueing into some statewide news, on Monday, the state of New Jersey reported 686 COVID-19 cases and 6 COVID-related deaths. As of Sunday night, there were 712 confirmed hospitalizations throughout the state due to the pandemic, resulting in the lowest number of COVID hospitalizations in 3 months. Currently, over 6 million people of the 9.2 that live in New Jersey are fully vaccinated. Lastly, for some more Montclair State University news, tonight is Mental Health Night. A mental health specialist is going to be coming to University Hall, room 1020, from 8:30 until 10 o'clock. They're going to be discussing some helpful mental health tips as well as discussing their career. Now for the weather, on this chilly Tuesday, we are looking at a high of 54 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 35 degrees Fahrenheit. Currently, it is 45 degrees Fahrenheit, so make sure to grab a coat. The air quality is excellent and the humidity is at around 87%. Today will be cloudy with a 2% chance of precipitation. Back to you, Kyle.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And throwing it over to Campbell for the sports news. Campbell, how is the world of sports?
Good morning. Now time for today's sportscast here on the Tuesday edition of the Morning Buzz. Big story coming out last night via the NHL and a big story for Ranger fans. Defenseman and reigning Norris Trophy winner Adam Fox is getting an extension, 7 years for a total of $66.5 million. That will go into effect next season, and an average annual value per season of 9.5 million. So the top defenseman for the Blue Shirts is getting his money's worth. Tonight, the World Series heads to Houston for Game 6 as the Braves look to finish the Astros to win their 4th World Championship. Now in hockey, the Blackhawks get their first win last night thanks to a hat trick from Patrick Kane. The Lightning defeated the Capitals, and the Oilers beat the Seattle Kraken thanks to 4 points from Leon Draisaitl. Tonight's slate, the Rangers are in Vancouver to take on the Canucks, and the Devils are in Anaheim to take on the Ducks. And the Islanders are off. So hopefully in a couple of days, we'll see some more Islanders action until they play in their new stadium in a couple of weeks. Monday Night Football, the Giants drop a heartbreaker to the Chiefs 20-17. Daniel Jones threw for 222 yards, a passing touchdown, and an interception, while Patrick Mahomes threw for 275 yards, a touchdown, and also an interception. The Chiefs are back at 500, while the G-Men are 2-6. Well, tonight, Ali, I know you talked about the weather. It's going to be chilly when fans and students are at MSU Soccer Park tonight as the women's soccer team takes on Rowan in the NJAC tournament semifinals. Kickoff is at 7 o'clock. And on this day in 2016, the Chicago Cubs beat the Cleveland Indians in 7 games to win their first title in 108 years. I'm Campbell Donovan, and this has been your morning sportscast. Back to you, Kyle.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And moving into the stories, as mentioned before, the gubernatorial election is tonight. And according to NJ.com, a new poll shows that Murphy has an 8-point lead in the New Jersey governor race. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy is leading against his Republican opponent, Jack Ciattarelli, by 8 percentage points in the gubernatorial election. The recently released Rutgers-Eagleton survey showed that Murphy is currently leading 50% to 42% as he runs for his second term as governor. Ashley Koenig, director of the Eagleton Center for Public Interest Polling at Rutgers University and an assistant research professor at the school, said, quote, "Any good poll consumer needs to remember, especially in an election cycle, that any single poll is a snapshot in time. The poll numbers are estimates with some level of statistical uncertainty, and they are meant more to explain than predict," end quote. The current standing of the survey shows that 24 people are voting because of their partisanship, while 15% of people are voting because they believe that Murphy did a good job in his first term as office. 6% are voting for the candidate that expresses similar values to them, and 4% stated that they are looking for a change. Pretty cool. Number one, I want to say I just learned the word gubernatorial, and it's probably my new favorite word.
It is. It does come out funny, right?
Yeah.
I always think of goober. You know?
That's exactly what Kenny said when he first told me about the word. But it's really close. So this is obviously a past survey, because obviously it didn't come out right this moment. It's a few hours old at this point, so it's subject to change by tonight, but it is close.
Yeah, no,
I did not expect it to be this close. Like, I'm not big on politics. I don't know too much about it, but I know, like, usually it's not this close, especially in New Jersey, which I'm not led to believe, but I thought was a mostly blue state. And just hearing talk around like the office and stuff, apparently that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, it's getting pretty mixed. I mean, it doesn't honestly kind of surprise me, because I just from seeing so many, like, and
right,
people on the right are pretty loud, with all the flags and signs and stuff. So
yeah,
it doesn't surprise me to say that some numbers are rising, but
we'll
see what happens.
Yeah. And according to the ghost of Kenny, Democratic incumbent hasn't had a second term in 44 years in the state of New Jersey, which is crazy.
Yeah, I was reading an article in NPR about this. It sounds like there's a bit of a tradition of like swinging from like whatever the state went to in the presidential election.
So kind of like a metronome back and forth.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like that's been a sort of running thing for a while now with these with both New Jersey and Virginia that has their elections around this time.
That is weird.
Yeah, no, like how last year, well, I don't think New Jersey went for Trump, but then they didn't.
Forget what state, not state, what candidate
pull up the
majority
article.
of the state voted for. But like I remember hearing about what Kenny said about the whole no second term in a long time, but like it's weird to think that it keeps changing back and forth this often. It's almost like New Jersey can't make up their mind on which way they want to go.
Yeah. Like you get it and it's like, nope, not this one.
Yeah. All right. This one didn't work out. We'll try the other side this time. Nope, not that one. Let's go back to this one.
You guys got any better ideas now?
All right. It's been 4 years. All right. We got this side. It's been 4 years. How you guys doing? All right. You sound good. Let's have you in. How about you guys? All right. You get the next 4.
Oh no, they're doing terrible. Guys.
At this point, why hold an election? Why not just alternate every 4 years?
Yeah, but
that is weird.
There is a lot of hope that that's gonna be broken this time, because but yeah,
according to the polls, Murphy is still in the lead, but we do have to remember what the quote said. This is meant to explain more than predict. So, and we saw in the 2016 election as well that like the polls aren't the most accurate gauge of who's going to win.
Well, I do think the 2016 election was kind of a special case, but yeah, no, polls are always kind of just they're There's
Yeah,
always that kind of nefarious quality to them where it's
exactly.
like, all right, it's just kind of to gauge how people are feeling.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like
No
a
way to
census.
know. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
speaking of political figures, Jake, would you take us to our next story, please?
I suppose I could.
All right.
If you
sounds
really
good.
want me to. Okay, so leaders dial up doomsday warning to kickstart climate talks. They're not kicking any climate talks. So world leaders met in Glasgow, Scotland. That sounds nice, Glasgow, to discuss the increasingly dire effects of climate change. That sounds less nice. Okay. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson compared global warming to a doomsday device for humankind, and Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley said, quote, "Don't allow the path of greed and selfishness to sow the seeds of our common destruction," end quote. Many countries are taking precautions to decrease their emissions of greenhouse gases. India said its plans to cut its addition of greenhouse gases completely by the year 2070, 20 years after the United States plan to, and 10 years after China. President Biden said, quote, "There is no time to sit back. Every time we delay, the cost of our inaction increases," end quote. One of the biggest concerns the UN has is that nations are too focused on completely eradicating of greenhouse gases rather than focusing on short-term goals that could prevent temperature increases. The main focus of the conference is to get governments to work on reducing carbon emissions.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's scary to think
Yep.
about. And the thing that really stuck out to me in this article was the fact that all these countries are so focused on like these extreme long-term solutions. Like India said, like, yeah, in 50 years, we'll
Yeah,
completely cut
we'll get
out
there.
gases, which is a very long time, 50 years. And like, obviously there are some other smaller, what are they called? Solutions, smaller short-term solutions that could maybe not have as big of effects, but also could still affect it enough to slow it down in a sense.
Yeah, you got to do something.
Yeah, exactly. But going off of that, at these talks, in addition to what you quoted Biden saying, an article from the New York Times states, even as Biden pushes for clean energy, he seeks more oil production. So while urging to reduce oil and gas usage, President Biden is also pushing for oil-rich companies to boost their oil production. Biden's statement shows the economic and political struggles that politicians are faced with when it comes to climate change. Biden defended his statement, saying, quote, "On the surface, it seems like an irony. But the truth of the matter is, you've all known, everyone knows, that the idea that we're going to be able to move to renewable energy overnight is just not rational," end quote. The push for oil production has drawn opposition from climate activists and energy experts who claim the planet cannot handle an increase in oil production. Executive Director at Greenpeace International, Jennifer Morgan, said, quote, "We are in a climate crisis. There is no room for the left hand and the right hand to be doing different things," end quote. The conference of 20 ended with more persuasion about decreasing climate change, but less concrete plans that many activists were hoping for. So this article did bring up a good point. The whole, you have to balance, the state of the earth, but at the same time, the well-being of the people. And especially after the economy took a major hit from the what was it called? Pandemic.
Yeah, that one.
They have to focus on, okay, we have to get the economy back working, but we also have to keep the earth from setting itself on fire. And we've seen this, especially in the last few months. Gas prices are going way up. They're at like $3.30 a gallon now, which is, a lot.
Yeah.
And so Biden here is like, yes, oil usage bad, but at the same time, collapsing economy is also bad. And so he's doing what I believe is his best to kind of balance that and say, like, let's focus on this now.
Mhm.
What I think Biden is doing, and this is just my I'll call it a working theory, opinion, or whatever. It doesn't reflect anyone here or the station. I think he's like, we're going to slowly transition to these renewable resources. And while we're doing that, we're just going to slightly bring up oil production just to get things back up and running
Mhm.
after the pandemic. And then gradually we'll use that oil production and push all that to renewable resources as well. I'm no
Yeah.
climate expert, but I think that's
No,
what
I
he's
think
doing.
you're somewhere along the right track for sure. Because, like, I don't know, we're seeing him kind of propose these kind of plans to kind of create more resources for renewables and kind of base our country's kind of infrastructure more around that. But they're not, they haven't gotten through yet, you know?
Yeah.
So if they haven't gotten through yet, then we still need power, you know, we're not gonna stop. I mean, it'd be cool if we did, but we're not gonna do that. So yeah, we need
Yeah,
to keep
people-
doing this. That's the
People
thing. I
kind of
don't
value their electricity.
yeah,
It's weird, but
unfortunately.
that's how it works.
I like this stuff. I say the things and then you guys hear them. It's crazy, but I'm in a room and that you guys aren't in. How'd that work? It's
That is true.
It's because oil is poisoning the air.
Yeah, I guess.
It's I, yeah, but I feel like it's kind of odd because I kind of saw this headline and it was almost like it's like there was almost kind of like an implicit implication of hypocrisy on the part of Biden. And it's like, well, if he can't do what he's trying to do, you know, getting these renewable resources as part of our infrastructure, then it's like, yeah, we're going to keep doing that stuff. What do you think? Like, I don't know,
Yeah,
there's no third
exactly.
option. And if we're not doing that, we're doing that.
Exactly. And I like how like he defended it. Like he didn't just say it and okay, that's it. He's like, yeah, it
I
seems
honestly-
ironic, but this is why
Actually-
I said this.
Gotta say, I kind of wish he was doing like kind of pointing out when I don't know, unless like maybe this is a bad point on my part, but like it is kind of odd how he is kind of saying like, yeah, we're not doing this overnight, which I mean is true, but also
It
he
is a
could say,
big thing to push for to do overnight.
yeah, but also he could say, I can't do it overnight because you guys won't let me. Like I don't, you know,
True. That is one way to look at it.
it's all
But, like-
optics, baby.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know. That just might be, you know, good. You know, President Biden, if you need a strategist, you could go if you want, you can go to the website. Check out.
So
the
if
team
you're
page.
not on the buzz next week, I'll know where you went. Allie, Campbell, anything to add?
I think you guys pretty much hit the nail on the head. I mean, I feel the exact same way. When I first read it, I was like, okay, this is a little hypocritical. But then as I like read more into the story, it was like, oh yeah, now I actually see where like the points are. I understand the reasoning behind it.
Yeah. Campbell?
I think to agree with both Allie and Jake's points that I think like Biden's like pushing a lot more resources, I guess, and I mean more resources and pushing that infrastructure agenda that he has, and just to I mean honestly like he's just trying to like build more, I guess, like of like I mean more wrapping like money around stuff. So
Yeah. I see what you're saying. But with that being said, we are going to take a quick break and we will be back with more news here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, the Tuesday Morning Buzz. Newscaster Ali Arario, how are you guys doing once again on this Tuesday morning?
I'm doing
good.
lovely. I'm sorry.
Almost. You chose to speak at
I
the
haven't had a
exact
proper-
same time.
Yeah, I haven't had a proper Zoom interruption like that in quite a while. That was great.
I'm
Thank you, Allie.
sorry. Oh no.
No, I think I don't even know who did that one. Okay. But yeah, I'm doing great. How are you, Allie?
I'm also doing great on this 7:00 on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gotta say, I'm feeling a little nostalgic for this format right now. This is, you know,
It's
This is how the buzz
it's a
was for me for the
throwback.
first year.
Up until this summer, this is the only way I knew how to do the buzz. I was
Yeah.
never in studio before the pandemic, and I've gotten used to it now. But boy, was it scary.
Yeah. Oh boy.
But with that being said, we have more news for you. This one is our MSU Spots News segment. And for this week's MSU Spot News segment, our reporter, Erin Lawler, is updating us on the performance of Rocky Horror Picture Show by Montclair State players. Here's Erin with the story.
Good morning, this is Erin Lawler reporting on the Players production of the Rocky Horror Picture Show performed over the weekend for WMSC 90.3 FM. This past weekend, Montclair State University's Players Club performed their annual Rocky Horror Picture Show. Since the Rocky Horror Picture Show made its debut in 1975, it has been a massive fan favorite, especially for its interactive aspect. After not being able to perform the show last year because of COVID, things had to be a little different this year.
The Virgin ceremony, it was different this year because usually we have the virgins are able to touch each other and compete against the Hot Lips in these games. For the people who have never seen a live version of the Rocky Horror Picture Show before, we still did that this year, but we only did the games that didn't involve them touching each other.
Junior Theater Studies major Zoe LaRose said due to COVID and the restrictions that it has put on campus, instead of the show taking place in the Red Hawk Nest like always, the show has moved to the Student Center ballrooms for more space. Even with all the restrictions, students are excited that theater is back and in person.
It was so much fun seeing a show that was actually in person, and watching my friends and classmates all get together to do this was really cool, and I love how interactive it was.
Madison Garthley, a Junior Education Foundations major, loved the twist they put on Rocky Horror this year by giving it a theme, which was Alice in Wonderland. Theater being back in person is giving students a sense of normalcy returning from COVID, and always a great way to spend a weekend at Montclair.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aaron. That was the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Jake, if I'm not mistaken, you went to see that this weekend, right? You're muted.
Oh, that was hasn't been it's been a while since I've done that as well.
We're hitting all the Zoom mistakes today.
Yeah. Highlight reel.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I did see the Rocky Horror Picture Show. It was fabulous. I loved it. Players did an absolutely great job with that. It's such a cool show. So the interactive, the call outs, which are a big thing. Jared's not in it. Kenny he did the thing. But yeah, no, super awesome show, super funny. The music's great. I always forget how good the music is in that show.
That's the play Time Warp is from, right?
Yes, Time Warp.
I remember that
that's
one.
a great one. But all of them.
Yeah. So Jared wasn't. I believe him telling me this. He wasn't in it. He was doing like pictures for it.
Yeah, he shot some photos for it.
Yeah. And our music segment or Tunes on Tuesday segment host for today, Emily McCormack, has also worked on it, which is pretty cool. We got 1, 2, 3. There's 6 of us. No, 4. There's 5 of us here, almost half of which have had some kind of interaction with the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is really cool.
Yeah, no, it's an awesome show. It's really cool to have that as a tradition here. That's such a nice one.
And this is something they do often, right? With the whole
I think it's an every year thing, if I'm not mistaken. I know they did it my freshman year, and of course, last year
Rocky Horror
the world
specifically,
ended, so
or
it didn't happen. Yeah, Rocky Horror.
Seems to be a campus-wide favorite.
Yeah, no, I think it's more than kind of a play. There's a whole kind of culture around this specific.
So you've seen it before.
Yeah, no, I was
prior to
familiar
this.
with the movie. I think I
Okay.
just watched it because it's on Hulu, and it's definitely an interesting watch.
Right.
Without anything going on, but especially with the showings, there's kind of this whole culture around it with kind of showing up and kind of screaming at the thing, and
Right.
yeah.
So how was it different with the whole COVID aspect added?
Honestly, I think I can't really say because this is the first time I've ever been to like a live performance of it, but it sounds
okay.
like it was even though that it was pretty interactive, they definitely took steps to make it interactive.
I mean, that's what we just heard from the Spots News.
I think it might have been more so in the past. Like I remember Caitlin, the Friday host of the Morning Buzz, talked about seeing it her freshman year, which she's in my grade. She talked about somebody sitting on her. Like, like just one of the actors just straight up. And it's like, okay, no one did anything like that.
Yeah. And I can understand.
But they did spray us with like water guns and stuff. And they made us do like a dance a bit, but like a hand dance,
Right,
no one stood up or done anything. It's like
that
like
sounds
that.
like a very interesting experience.
Yeah, it was interesting for a lot of reasons. But no, it was awesome.
Well, it sounds awesome. So, thank you, Jake, for that extended insight. Thank you, Emily, for your behind the scenes work. And thank you, Aaron, for the Spots News. But with that being said, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will have an interview with Ryan Breda about the election coverage tonight. So stay tuned for that. And welcome back to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, the Tuesday edition of the Fall Morning Buzz 2021. That is so many things to cover. I am your host, Pepitone. Our co-host, Jacob Goetz, is here. Our newscaster, Ali Arario, and our sportscaster, Campbell Donovan. And I know I keep promising this interview with Ryan Breda about the election coverage, but right before we do that, we have one more thing to do. Ali is going to give us the extended weather for this week. Ali, take it away.
So today we have a high of 54 and a low of 35, and it will be cloudy all day. On Wednesday, there will be a high of 55 and a low of 34, and it will be sunny. Thursday has a high of 52 and the low is 35, with Friday having a high of 54 and a low of 33, and it will also be sunny. And the sunny weather will continue into Saturday, where we have a high of 53 and a low of 36. Lastly, Sunday will have a high of 53 and a low of 41. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And like I said before, tonight from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., WMSC is reporting on the New Jersey gubernatorial race. The program is being put on by our news director, Daji Cruz Rosario, and our assistant news director, Ryan Breda. In the past years, this coverage has been award-winning, and our news team is looking to keep up their history of putting out the best content. Speaking with us about the coverage now, we have Ryan Breda. Ryan, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for coming on the show.
No,
Good to see you
thank you
again.
guys. Yeah, you too. Thank you guys so much for having me. How you doing this morning?
We're
Very
doing
good.
absolutely fantastic.
Good to
So,
hear.
what is the importance of having coverage for this election, specifically the gubernatorial one?
Right. So this election is so important because one, not only is it an election for Governor Murphy to get reelected, but also it's for the whole New Jersey as a whole to get out the vote and vote on issues for New Jerseyans that matter for them. There's also two other big elections going around across the country. We have Virginia's election, which is going to be extremely close, and we have the New York City mayor election. So it's extremely important for people to go out to vote and make their voices heard, especially in New Jersey.
Right, definitely. And why specifically WMSC's coverage? What, as a station, are we offering that other stations and news outlets are not?
Are you questioning us, Kyle?
No.
We're going to be offering a ton of coverage. For example, two of our reporters are going to be Tom's River, really going out there to the polls, getting voters' perspective of why they're voting, why they're coming out. We're also going to have reporters coming in, contributors. We're going to have 6 contributors in the station, really giving their opinion, showing their knowledge of politics. Really, AJ Murillo is going to be coming on, the former news director from 2 years ago. We're going to have non-stop coverage. We're going to have interviews as well. We've done over 4 interviews with experts on campus, such as Bridget Harrison, Luis Portez. I also have a package of the rally that President Obama was at last Saturday. So it's going to be non-packed and non-stop action of news coverage and just political commentary. And if you love politics, like, this is going to be the show for you.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I'm one of the contributors for tonight, so that's going to be sick. But let's talk about the election itself. What's the significance of this election in New Jersey? Why is it different from the others?
Good question. So New Jersey's election, this is really interesting because one, a Democrat has never won re-election since 1977. Really think about that. That is bizarre. And Governor Phil Murphy is in an interesting spot because in the summer, he had a huge lead. Now, Republican candidate Jack Ciattarelli, he kind of shortened that. Murphy has about a 6 to 8 point lead right now, but you never know. Polls are always wonky. You know, we've seen that in so many elections in the past. And this election has a lot at stake. You know, if Governor Murphy wins re-election, people will be voting for the continued COVID protocols that he's been calling for. If Jack Ciattarelli wins the election, you're going to see a different type of New Jersey. Jack Ciattarelli is very much for, you know, not having the COVID, you know, vaccine mandates, or he's not a fan of the COVID, like, you know, enforcing a ton of COVID protocols. You know, he runs things differently in regards to schooling, you know, his feelings about critical race theory, things like that. So it would be a kind of like a different New Jersey in a way. But
Absolutely.
you know, if people are voting for Phil Murphy, they know what they're getting. And the same thing with Jack Ciattarelli.
Right. Yeah. And what is the importance of the governor in New Jersey, the governorship of New Jersey itself? Obviously, you mentioned what each candidate stands for, but how is New Jersey and this gubernatorial election important in the presence of Washington, D.C.?
Very good question. So, you know, in the past, I don't know if you guys know this, but presidents who recently win elections, it's usually harder for governors who win elections. In the past, you know, when President Clinton won, his Democratic incumbent in his state lost the election after he won the presidential election. So it's been kind of like a little jinx going on from Washington to, you know, state governor elections. And that's important because not a lot of people are a fan of President Joe Biden right now. And that could be a huge shift in how many Democrats actually win their elections, which is important to President Biden's agenda as a whole. You know, President Biden is trying to get, you know, the infrastructure bill going on right now. And we need, obviously governors aren't voting on that, but they need that leverage and support to, you know, continue that in regards to, you know, who wins in the Senate, things like that. So it's very impactful. Whether it's, you know, whenever President Biden's doing well, that really takes the tone of, you know, other Democratic challengers, whether it's in the state legislature too, as a whole. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's people in the state legislative electorate, and like I wouldn't be surprised if a few Republicans win because of how the people feel about Joe Biden right now.
Oh, absolutely. How about the other elections that you mentioned before that are happening, you know, around the country? Of course, there's Virginia and the New York's mayoral. How did they play out on the grand scale of Washington?
You know, Virginia is going to be the biggest test. Virginia is the biggest one everyone's talking about. And that's because, you know, you have the former governor of Virginia running, and you have a guy who's never been in politics running in Virginia, and it's neck and neck. It really is neck and neck, and it's extremely important for the same thing. Like we said, what's going on in Washington? What is the message people are thinking about? And the big thing in Virginia is really in schools. You know, schools is the big topic in Virginia. And it'll be really interesting to see if the Republican candidate wins in Virginia. It's going to be a huge testament to see how people are feeling in Washington. Because you guys remember Joe Biden won in Virginia in the presidential election, and it'll be an interesting shift if a Republican wins as governor.
Right, definitely. And how does running from a candidate that has never been involved in politics before offer an evolving view of politics?
Well, I think we saw that, excuse me, in 2016. A lot of people voted for, you know, President Trump when, you know, he had no political experience and they kind of saw him as an outsider. And some people still feel that way. Some people still have the mentality of, you know, if someone's not involved in politics, then okay, maybe they could change something up. So people still have that feeling, and people still have their beliefs. And that'll never, you know, it's an interesting marketing tactic that new politicians are using now. So
right, there's a lot of focus on the marketing aspect on it. Very true.
For sure.
Yeah. How about the policies between the two governor candidates? How do the policies between Murphy and Citarelli differ from one another?
Well, you have Jack in regards to schooling. I'll start with schooling first.
Mhm.
Jack Citarelli would like it to be more parents based in schooling. So what does that mean? Having more parents on school board deciding on what their students should be learning. Jack Citarelli does not believe that critical race theory should not be taught in classes. Meanwhile, Governor Murphy obviously does. In regards to COVID, Jack Citarelli is for COVID vaccines. He has gotten the vaccine, but he does not believe that mandates should be happening. Governor Murphy, on the other hand, has done mandates, and they have upped New Jersey's numbers in regards to vaccinations. So those are two main things that New Jerseyans are voting for. Also, Jack Citarelli would like the lower taxes. He always talks about how New Jersey has the highest property taxes in the country, and how it's terrible to do. He says it's terrible to do business in New Jersey. So he would like the lower taxes. However way he would like to do that. But those are really where their policies differ.
Yeah. Okay. So what are the pros that both candidates offer one another? Offer from one, yeah.
It's a really interesting question. Because I try to remain unbiased as a journalist, but the pros that they all really offer one another. I mean, what you're getting with Governor Murphy. How his leadership style. People who are voting for Governor Murphy are going to be, or people who are happy with how he handled the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think with Jack Citarelli is an overall moderate, Republican, and he is really. His goal would really be to lower taxes and bring New Jersey as a business state, bring back business in New Jersey, and he wants to see businesses come to life and boom in New Jersey. So that's really where they stand in regards to their pros.
Now, I hate to be Debbie Downer, but it can't be sunshine and rainbows all the time. So you mentioned the pros about each of their policies and each of their stances. Now, on the other end of the scale, what about the cons? What does the packages and policies for each governor mean in a negative sense?
Right. So in regards to the public eye's view, Governor Murphy, not a lot of people are happy with vaccine mandates. Just to give you guys a little bit of an example, there was a video that came out about a week ago from Project Veritas, and a video came out, and it was allegedly a Murphy staffer saying that after the election, Governor Murphy would be enforcing vaccine mandates. Project Veritas has a history of having a lot of disinformation out there, but a lot of Republicans are using that as fuel to the fire to vote for Republican candidate Jack Citarelli. So that's been a huge talking point. And a lot of Republicans you'll talk to will say that vaccine mandates are something that they will not want to do, and they do not want that to happen. In regards to Jack Citarelli, not a lot of people are happy with, how he stands in regards to schooling. Schooling's the biggest thing, and how he handles COVID. So it's kind of like a mix and match of things, right? People want, certain mandates, and also people don't want parents telling what is happening in schools. So I would say those are like the cons, because that really is like, if you talk to people who are Republicans, they will say like the vaccine mandate. If you talk to people who are Democratic voters, they, want to be able to have critical race theory taught in school. They want to have their children masked. They want to have their children vaccinated. So it's really like a whole split state in regards to policies, in regards to Republicans and Democrats here in New Jersey.
Right. And you mentioned before, when you were talking earlier about the policies, that like whoever you vote for, it's going to be, we know what we're getting, like who you're voting for, what you're getting, and that it's going to be a different New Jersey either way. So would you expand on that more? Like, what is our everyday life going to look like now, depending on which candidate wins the gubernatorial election?
If Governor Murphy wins re-election, it'll be the same New Jersey in a way. The minimum wage will be raised to $15 an hour. Climate change will continue to be a main part of his campaign. COVID will continue to be a main part of his campaign, whether it's enforcing more vaccine mandates or not. If Jack Citarelli wins, you're going to see a little bit different of a New Jersey in a way when regards to, there's going to be lower taxes. There's going to be a change in schooling policies. There may not be vaccine mandates, which could be good or bad, whatever, however you look at it. And in that sense, Jack Citarelli also does have climate policies as well to fight climate change. But as a whole, that could be a different New Jersey. If there's no vaccine mandates, that could be a whole new ball game in regards to COVID, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so to wrap up, of course, Ryan, as far as I know, you're not a sorcerer. You can't tell the future. But just from, the vibe you're getting as you're researching all of this, where do you think we're heading? How do you think this race is shaping out?
It's really interesting because, a few days ago, I would have said, I don't know. It could be a toss-up, and I could see like a Jack Citarelli win. But as of right now, I would say Governor Murphy would win re-election, considering how the polling is happening. But then again, we never know what's happening with the polls. Polls play mind games sometimes. But it looks like right now Governor Murphy will win re-election. But at the end of the day, it'll all matter of who comes out to vote and who doesn't come out to vote. So the biggest thing is, if you have a voice, if you have a passion, please come out to vote and make your voice heard, because your voice matters.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us today on the show for this interview. And regardless of who wins, I'm sure they'll be singing this. This is We Are the Champions by Queen. Of the Morning Buzz, I am your host, as always, Kyle Pepitone, with my co-host, as always, Jacob Goetz, our newscaster, technically bi-weekly, Ali Arario, and our sportscaster, as always, Campbell Donovan. And now it is time for our special segment here on 90.3 WMSC. And we have Emily McCore-Mack representing Tunes on Tuesday. Emily, what can we expect from this week's episode of Tunes?
Hello, everyone. So this week's Tunes on Tuesday, which is our weekly new music show curated by the music team here at WMSC, we have an interview with New York City-based artist Rachel Bachner, interviewed by Amina Ali. Bachner cites artists such as Lana Del Rey, Maggie Rogers, Julia Michaels, and Lorde as her musical inspirations, though she is developing her own style. She speaks about her musical career during the pandemic, what inspires her music, co-writing with other artists, and notes to her past self in today's interview. She speaks about her upcoming EP, which explores her relationship with herself, being there for her friends, and navigating through life in her early 20s. Bachner goes into detail about her playful new single, Ghosted My Therapist, where she touches on her experience with mental health. Her song is available on all streaming platforms and will play during today's Tunes on Tuesday episode. New music from Rachel Bachner and much more will play later today, and this week's playlist includes music from Jack White, Madonna, Green Day, Destroy Boys, Death from Above 1979, Snail Mail, Innerwave, State 5, The Dirty Nil, and The Happy Fits. The last two bands have been recently interviewed by members of the music team here at WMSC. Tunes on Tuesday will air at 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so you could listen in for new music and good vibes.
Awesome. Thank you
That
so
sounds
much.
sick.
Yeah, totally. I'm always looking forward to new music. That's always my favorite thing. And I gotta say, it's been a major, the last few months have been a good year for me in terms of albums. But
yeah,
that being said, I really want to focus on like the whole local scene, this all the bands you've mentioned before, and of course our star artist for the interview today, Rachel Bachner. It sounds really cool. Like, obviously putting out new music is always cool, and I'm sure from a artist perspective, because Jake, you know about that, and to an extent so do I, it's a great feeling to put out music. So I can't imagine, I mean, I kind of can, but I can't imagine how she feels about this upcoming EP. Like, this is my work, this is all the new stuff I've been working on, and the world is going to hear it. That's what I love so much about releasing new music, more so from a local artist perspective, because when you're on a grander scale, you're like, well, yeah, I mean, There's going to be
whatever, they're gonna hear it.
there's a world of 7 billion people. At least someone's going to like it. But when you're smaller, you don't have that audience. And
Mhm.
you're like, I wonder who's going to discover this and be like, this is now the soundtrack to my life. This is everything that I look for in music. This explains what I'm going through, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Emily,
No,
do you have? Oh yeah, go ahead,
sorry.
Jake. Sorry, my bad.
I was just gonna say that when you know, that it can have that effect for people, and when people and it could also just kind of bring you into a whole new community and a whole new type of music that you might not have found otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. Emily, do you have anything else to add?
I don't personally produce any kind of music, but I know on a very small scale, things that I've done in the past, in school or whatever, when I present it to other people, it's like a very weird feeling. Like I'm so proud of the thing that I've created, and to have other people enjoy it too is really awesome. So, she's listening, know that I listened to her music on my walk over to the studio this morning, and I really enjoyed the single that's going to be playing later today.
Awesome. I love to hear it. Allie, Campbell, anything to add? Any experiences with releasing projects on a grand or just local scale?
Honestly, I haven't really caught up to like new like music yet. But like albums from various artists that I'll try to catch up on, and whenever they come out with new projects. But I love how the local scene is being recognized around here. I know the music team has done a fantastic job in interviewing local bands that have put out their work and are trying to get noticed the in the bigger scenes and in the future. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Allie, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I'm not an artist, but I've been doing theater for 8 years. And I think always just putting yourself out there and really dedicating yourself to something, and getting that reward and getting that payoff is always something it feels great. And knowing that like your hard work and your dedication is worth it, I think it's a feeling that's like no other. So I think that kind of relates to releasing music and writing songs and being involved with that.
Yeah. And in addition to Rachel Bachner, we got a whole playlist of new music for the show today. Are any of you familiar with any of their work? I mean, some of them, Jack White, Madonna, Green Day, the
I've
indie
heard of
bands
those.
that nobody's heard of. But like the other ones, like Dirty Nail, Happy Fits, State 5, which I had the pleasure of interviewing. Are you guys familiar with any of those bands and their work?
I personally listen to the Happy Fits pretty much daily.
They're the ones with all the fruit covers.
Yes, the fruit covers you're talking about. I think that they're just really fun people, and I really enjoy their vibes. We talked about it last week, but what I love about them the most, they have a really unique sound, and there's 3 members of the band, and you never know which member of the band is going to be singing what song.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning
Yeah,
that.
and I think that's really cool, like kind of sharing that instead of having like a designated lead singer.
Yeah,
And I absolutely love their voices, so I'm glad that they kind of share the spotlight when it comes to that.
definitely. And it's having 3 different singers can open up like new musical creativity. Like you can tell a story through a song and have different characters in the song because you have 3 different people singing.
Exactly.
Which I think is absolutely amazing. And I for one want to talk about State 5 because they're such a great band that I discovered. They're very focused on like, more of that mental health kind of thing. It's very similar to what we'll be hearing later today with Ghost and My Therapist, but they have that whole, this is how life is. It's not always great, but it's the kind of music that can get you through it. And they have a perfect mix of the super heavy, aggressive stuff. And then their recent single, Breathe, too, also is more on the slow side. And so it hits that entire range of like, how am I feeling today and how do I want to deal with it kind of emotion, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I'll have to take a listen because, boy, I need new music.
Yeah. And any of the other bands that any of you are familiar with that about their work? I mean, like I said, obviously there's Jack White, Madonna, Green Day. And is there anything like new stuff by them? Because I'll be honest, I don't keep up with many of the band. Like I don't keep
Oh
up too
yeah.
much with Green Day. So to any of your knowledge, are they doing anything else or?
Oh man, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't think so. Didn't they like get into like a habit of posting covers and stuff?
They did the No Fun Mondays. I know that, but I think
Yeah.
that was last year, 2020.
Yeah, it was like during the pandemic and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing now.
Yeah, exactly. But until that time, you're listening to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. Thank you, Emily, for the Tunes on Tuesday coverage. And right now, you will be hearing the aforementioned single by Rachel Bachner called Ghosted My Therapist. And welcome back to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. Congratulations, everybody. You have reached the second hour of the Morning Buzz. I am your host, as always, Kyle Pepitone, joined by my co-host, Jacob Goetz, our newscaster, Ali Arario, and our sportscaster, Campbell Donovan. During the second hour of our show today, we will be covering topics such as how the pandemic has helped people appreciate life, how Carol Baskins is suing Netflix, and how a man had his house stolen. We got a whole bunch for you today. Starting off with number one, the joys of solitude. Thousands of people found new appreciation during enforced alone time in lockdown. But before that, we have Ali Arario with the newscast. Ali, take it away.
Thank you, Kyle, and hello again, everybody. My name is Ali Arario, and on this magnificent Tuesday, I am joining you from 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. In national news, for the third time in history, forecasters have reached the end of the Atlantic storm name list. This tropical storm, which is called Tropical Storm Wanda, formed in the Atlantic Ocean on Saturday and Sunday and is expected to gain more power over the course of the next few days. Forecasters are now trying to figure out an alternative storm naming system for the rest of the year. Now, segueing into some statewide news. On Monday, the state of New Jersey reported 686 COVID-19 cases and 6 COVID-related deaths. As of Sunday night, there were 712 confirmed hospitalizations throughout the state due to the pandemic, resulting in the lowest number of COVID hospitalizations in 3 months. Currently, over 6 million people of the 9.2 million that live in New Jersey are fully vaccinated. Lastly, for some Montclair State University news, tonight is Mental Health Night. A mental health specialist is going to be coming to University Hall, room 1020, from 8:30 until 10 o'clock. They're going to be discussing some helpful mental health tips as well as discussing their career. Now for the weather on this chilly Tuesday, we are looking at a high of 54 degrees and a low of 35. Currently it is 45 degrees, so make sure to grab a coat. And the air quality is excellent and the humidity is around 87%. Today will be cloudy with a 2% chance of precipitation. Back to you, Kyle.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ali. And throwing it directly over to our sportscaster, Campbell. Campbell, tell us what's going on in the world of sports.
Well, Colin, aren't we just excited for this Tuesday?
Yes,
Now,
we are.
Yep. Now time for the second hour of today's sportscast here on the Tuesday edition of the Morning Buzz. Adam Fox is going to get paid 7 years, a total of $66.5 million that will go into effect next year with an average annual value of $9.5 million per year. The Rangers get their franchise defenseman and reigning Norris Trophy winner that big money he deserves. The World Series is now in Game 6 in Houston as the Braves look to finish off the Astros to win their 4th World Series. Blackhawks get their first win of the season as Patrick Kane gets a hat trick. The Lightning beat the Capitals and the Oilers defeat the Seattle Kraken. The Rangers tonight are in Vancouver to take on the Canucks. The Devils are in Southern California and Anaheim, respectively, to take on the Anaheim Ducks, and the Islanders are off. The Giants lose in a crushing heartbreaker in Arrowhead Stadium to the Chiefs, 20-17. Daniel Jones, 222 yards, a passing touchdown, and an interception. Patrick Mahomes, 275 passing yards, a touchdown, and an interception as well. Chiefs are 4-4, while the Giants are 2-6. And Breeze up for the weather tonight. It's going to get chilly at MSU Soccer Park tonight as the women's soccer team takes on the Rowan Profs in the NJAC tournament semifinals. Kickoff is at 7 o'clock. And on this day in 2016, the Chicago Cubs did it all. They beat the Cleveland Indians in 7 games to win their first title in 108 years. I'm Campbell Donovan. This has been your morning sportscast for the second hour of the Tuesday edition of the Morning Buzz. Back to you, Kyle.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Campbell. And I apologize to both of you for almost skipping over you.
I got scared for a second. I heard the Carol Baskin teaser.
Yeah.
And then you went right to the first story, and then I got jump scared for a bit, but Halloween ended already.
Yes, I apologize. I still transitioning from last week when I was completely alone in the studio. Speaking of alone time, the joys of solitude. Thousands of people found new appreciation during enforced alone time in lockdown, according to the Good News Network. Quality alone time during the pandemic has resulted in positive health effects within all age groups. Findings from the first phase of the pandemic during the summer of 2020 found that all ages experienced more positive health benefits than negative consequences. Across all the ages, a little under 50% of the study's participants said their alone time was spent with competent exercises such as skill building. Meanwhile, feelings of self-reliance and self-confidence were more popular among adults. Dr. Netta Weinstein, associate professor of psychology at the University of Reading, said, quote, "Our paper shows that aspects of solitude, a positive way of describing being alone, is recognized across all ages as providing benefits for our well-being, end quote. However, like I said, I'm the resident Debbie Downer of this crew, and there were also many negative effects expressed, although, as mentioned before, not as much as positive side effects, especially within working adults. 35% of working adults reported disrupted well-being, 44% reported a negative mood, and 1 in 7 working adults experienced alienation. I'm sorry to bring you that news. I really would have loved to just focus on the positive, but we have to include everything.
Kyle, you're not.
No, it just makes sense.
Here.
Yeah. Thank you, Campbell. I feel a little bit better. But I do want to ask the room now, because obviously we've all lived through this. We are still living through it. Just we're still in the pandemic, not so much the lockdown portion anymore. But how was your experiences in solitude? Which way do your scales tip?
My scale was
what a weird way, what a weird thing to say, but go on, Campbell.
The tipping scale was like a boulder hidden on one side. It never came up and bounced it.
Oh.
Yeah.
May I ask on which side?
I would say the lesser.
Aw.
It was not fun being locked in your house for 3 months and then smelling the fresh air during that summer.
Yeah.
And then people having to follow mandates and really just doing nothing. It stunk. It felt horrible. It really took a lot of emotional stress in me, and a lot of talks about mental health throughout those 3 months of lockdown and not knowing what to do and like how we had to get through this. But now like we kind of got through it, and sort of like I don't know, it's like the Tippett scale at this point is like, I would say around the 50-50 mark.
Okay, that's good. So it's balancing out now after the lockdown, right?
Yeah.
All right, that's good to hear. I like to hear that. There's a silver lining to that one. Allie, what about you? How did you fare during the pandemic?
I think I had both a positive and a negative experience. So in terms of myself, just personally, I've always been more on the quieter side. I've kind of kept to myself. And I think the pandemic and isolating myself really made me appreciate socialization and made me realize how much I do enjoy talking to other people. So for like throughout the actual pandemic, it was very difficult. I think just being trapped inside. I was a very COVID conscious person. I still am, but during the lockdown specifically, I would not see my friends. I stayed at my house by myself. All my family members were essential workers. So it was very scary for me, and that took a toll on my mental health a little bit. But once things started reopening, I just put myself out there whenever I could. I went back to high school and I was talking to anybody that I could, and it made me realize how much communication meant to me and socialization. So
I'll say
positive and
this,
negative.
and I apologize for interrupting you. Like those students like that are now freshmen and like we're going to be sophomores in the coming next after the semester. I generally really feel bad because they lost their experience those last 6 months of their high school experience
Yeah.
and from this pandemic, and then they had to transition from that to college, and college really had to be online or either they would be in persons, and they never really had that experience when they go from high school to college, and now like they don't have they haven't felt a sense of normalcy. And Kyle, I'll tell you this. I mean, my only sense of normalcy was my freshman year, first semester, and really 2 years ago. That's really the only normalcy I felt while being at MSU.
Yeah, that is true. Like you said, both of you, like it's one way, it's not one way or the other. It's very not middle of the road, but it's fluctuating quite often. Jake, what about you? Did you lean to one side or have you been all over the
Um,
place?
you know, yeah, like Ali, I definitely had a little bit of both. Of course, there were so many, like it was hard. It was not it was not great, but I did have an opportunity, and there was of course you had a lot of time in your hands, right? Especially when you're, younger and you don't really you're not working or doing as much like that. So I definitely took that time to kind of focus on myself and focus on getting better at guitar, focus on getting better at writing and reading more, and um, you know just kind of, yeah, trying to make myself better during that time and make the best of it.
Yeah, definitely. I'd probably say for me, I'll make it real quick, but I was somewhere around the same. So my thing is I'm an introvert,
Mhm.
but even I at some point am like, okay, people aren't my favorite thing in the world, but I need to see somebody at some point. I think it was around like November or whatever. I'm like, okay, this is getting a little,
Mhm.
I'm going a little stir crazy.
Yeah, no, I definitely felt that way at some point, at
Yeah, it wasn't
multiple points, but yeah.
right. But I mean, now we are back to an extent
Mhm.
at WM 90.3 WMSC. And we got the morning buzz. We're doing all this now. And
Yeah.
for the most part, we have almost everybody in studio.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
I'll just say this. I think like what like brought some positivity to cope myself with like trying to socialize was getting up in the morning to do the buzz for the
Absolutely.
summer. During COVID, we had to be online and stuff, and we doing the sportscast. And I think it was a way for me to like just like socialize with people for hour and a half,
Yeah.
and I believe in the
Mhm.
hour during that time, and then of course now 2 hours. I mean, get to be in person doing this, and then me that I do my show with as well. Just like socialize for a bit, talk about what I like to talk about. It's just that's how like I mean that's how I felt like a little bit normal because like we didn't have anything for those 6 to 7 months. I would say.
Yeah,
Uh,
totally. It's been definitely an experience. And one of the things that came about during COVID that I'm sure gave mixed feelings to a lot of people was Tiger King, the documentary series. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But for now, stay tuned to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, and we will be right back. And welcome back to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, the fall Tuesday edition of the Morning Buzz of the year 2021. I think I said that right.
Yeah.
Okay. I almost had it. And then I second guessed myself at the end. But yes, both the fall and 2021 are coming to an end soon, which I really can't believe the year is almost over, but we still got 2 months, so we'll talk about that at a later date.
Well, but
Good idea.
We still have a month still have a month and a half left of classes, which is kind of
Very true.
It's kind of sad. Like, I picture myself now a junior going to second semester, thinking, my goodness, after this year, I'm going to be a senior.
Yeah.
Okay, it's too early for this, guys.
Sorry, Jake. I had to bring it up. I had to.
All right, Jake. Well, if you don't want to talk about this, then please fill us in on what's happening with the new season of Tiger King.
Oh, gladly. Yeah. Remember the Tiger Show? Remember the funny TikTok song? Okay, so Carol Baskin sues Netflix over Tiger King season 2. She sued Netflix immediately after they released the trailer for the second season of Tiger King. Baskin took the streaming service along with Royal Good Productions to Florida federal court and pleaded for a restraining order that would prohibit them from using any film footage of Baskin. Carol and her husband Howard said they didn't agree to additional filming and that the final product was not what they expected. Attorney Frank Jakes state, quote, far from being a documentary motion that seeks to expose the illicit trade of big cat private ownership, breeding, and cub petting, Tiger King 1 is a 7-episode series focused primarily upon the portrayal of Joe Exotic as a sympathetic victim and Carol as the villain, end quote. Additionally, the Baskins claim that Tiger King 1, quote, portrayed Carol Baskin as a murderer who disposed of her late husband's remains by feeding her to big cats, end quote. Mixed with the popularity of this show, Carol was sent hate mail and death threats. Carol Baskin is asking for the court to step in by November 16th prior to the release of Tiger King's second season. Oh boy. So now we know what they're going to talk about in Tiger King season 3.
It's weird because, okay, we all, I've never seen Tiger King. I'm literally going off of what I saw around social media. Yeah, I'm just not good with keeping up with TV shows. I haven't seen Squid Game yet either. So,
oh, wow.
I'll watch it in like 5 years down the line when I get to it. But that being said, like the way I saw it, having not seen it and just going off of what everyone else has been saying, is that, you know, like the article said, Carol Baskins was this, how do I say it? Less than ideal person who was suspected of, you know, feeding her late husband to big cats. But now, and I don't know how true either side of this story is, but now to see her perspective being like, hey, no, that's not true.
I didn't.
which is a major problem with media, depending on how it's shot, edited, framed, and whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
Portray anything. Like you could edit Tiger King as it is right now, the first season. You could re-edit that and totally flip the script. Carol Baskins would be the sympathetic one and Joe Exotic, and that is just through the power of editing. So
and I don't know. I do have to question that. That's how Tiger King season 1 kind of portrayed it. I don't know if I'd exactly call Joe Exotic a sympathetic victim.
Yeah,
I mean, in some ways.
I think they both look like villains.
Yeah, I think that was I remember that was kind of the discourse around the show, that everyone in the show kind of was a bit of a villain.
Yeah, there was no one you're really supposed to be rooting for, per se.
Yeah. So I don't know.
That is true, but I guess from Baskin's perspective, it's like, well,
yeah,
they didn't like suspect him
They
of
didn't say Joe killed his husband.
yeah, they didn't say that. They said it
I
to
mean,
me. So like kind of unfair here. So I think maybe that's what she's going off of as like one of the main points is like
yeah, I guess that
he-
is a tough one.
because another
right?
thing you mentioned is she got hate mail and death threats from this thing.
Yep.
As far as we know, Joe Exotic didn't receive any of that kind of stuff. At least it wasn't mentioned in the article because, of course, the article focuses
Yeah.
mainly on Carol Baskins and her husband.
He is in prison, though, I believe.
Yeah, he is in prison.
Yes, that was a story that came out very soon after it. Actually, I remember that he is in prison.
I think it's in the documentary that.
Oh, really?
It shows him like, yep, this man is in prison now. I forget what. Do you remember what it was he did
All I remember
that
is
landed him there? I think it might have been like the cat trade or something.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Something-
like I said, I
something in
haven't
regards to
watched
that.
it, but from what I heard from other people, he's done a lot of things that could end him there.
Yep.
So I guess they were just
No.
throwing darts at a board of what should we actually get him for.
Yeah, like like how the Al Capone was got for taxes. Yeah.
But overall, like to have her sue Netflix over what she claims she did not agree to, which would be the additional filming, and how the first Tiger King season failed to portray her in a way that she expected, and to have them jump in so soon, because it is November now. There is like 15 days till November 16th.
Yeah.
And obviously she really I mean, could she have done stuff before they released this trailer? I don't know. It's hard to say because she probably didn't know what it was going to look like season 2 until they dropped the trailer. But then again, why would they not like show her a preview of what the season is going to be before putting it out to the people? I don't know how reality television works.
Yeah.
I know a lot of it is not really reality, and it's just how it's framed to get better views and stuff, like fake storylines and all that. But even still, why I feel like you're almost obligated to show the people you're filming and be like, hey, this is how people are going to see you. You cool with this?
Yeah, I think it's,
which clearly she's not.
I don't know. I think obviously I assume she was aware that she was being filmed, but it's probably just like she didn't like the way that it, came together and the way she was portrayed there. And I don't know. A part of me is like I don't know. Did you not watch the first season? Like,
Are you talking to me or Baskins?
No, Baskin.
Okay.
If you knew how they portrayed you, unless I'm misunderstanding the situation, if you knew how they portrayed you in season 1, why would you go back for season 2?
Well, that's the thing. Obviously, they didn't film. I don't believe they filmed this in a year. I don't think season 1 came out and they're like, let's go back and film season 2. From my understanding of the article, so it was like over the course of, what was it, like 4 years, they filmed them 10 days over the course of 4 years. And I guess they filmed more than that. And they're like, hey, we didn't agree to this. We only agreed to what was going to be shown in the first season. And then now you're going here. You've got all this other footage that we really didn't agree to. And according to them, they're not being paid for. And now you're making another whole season to profit off of.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of the, other than, like the being suspected of murder, that's probably the other thing she's going for. Like, hey, not only did we not agree to this, you're not paying us for this extra footage, and now you're going to rake in the cash because for some reason people flock to Netflix like sheep.
Yeah.
Kyle.
Yes.
I found an article from AP News explaining the reason why Joe Exotic was convicted.
Oh, awesome. What was the real reason out of the many things that it could have been?
It's very chaotic, I would add, but he was arrested and sentenced in January 2020 to 22 years in federal prison of being convicted for trying to hire 2 different men for a murder to hire plot on Carol Baskin.
Yes.
Oh,
But-
yes, I
Mhm.
remember that.
And
Yes. Oh my God, it's all coming back to
an
me.
article came out in July saying they're asking for a shorter sentence for him.
Yes. Okay, now it's coming back to me. I do remember that story. I think it was on one of the days I covered for the Buzz. It might have been, but yeah, I do remember that whole story very, what's the word? Vividly. Wow. News is weird. And
It
wait,
is.
correct me if I'm wrong. Tiger King's takes place in Florida, right?
Yes.
Cool. We got a Florida man story unintentionally. Jeez.
You could always count on it.
Yep. And with that being said, as you know, as Campbell mentioned before, Halloween and spooky season is over. And we're getting word from the Ghost of Kenny that Joe Exotic is actually from Oklahoma. So, yeah. So maybe not entirely Florida man. But with that being said, we are going to take a quick break and we will be back with more news stories here on 90.3 WMSC. WMSC Upper Montclair. I'm your host, Kyle Pepitone. Co-host, as always, Jacob Gates. Newscaster,
Gates.
Ali Arario. Sportscaster, Campbell Donovan. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
I'm
Never
sorry,
gonna let that
Jake.
You're being
slide.
joined by Bill Gates's cousin. Jake Gates.
Oh my goodness. Yikes. Okay. Anyway, like I mentioned before, the Ghost of Kenny has told us that Joey Exotic is actually from Oklahoma, so we didn't get our Florida man story, but don't worry, we came prepared with a backup. As a Coast Guard rescues a man from a sinking boat near Tampa's MacDill Air Force Base. According to TampaBay.com, a man near MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa called 911 to report his boat was taking on water. The St. Petersburg station of the Coast Guard sent a 29-foot rescue boat and crew to help this man. The man was uninjured and taken to Williams Park Marina in Tampa, and Petty Officer First Class Brian Halley said, quote, with adverse weather in the area, we advise boaters to check their vessels and safety gear before getting underway. Boaters should know the limitations of their vessels and stay off the water if possible, end quote. So, seems odd to read that story, but I'll give you the alternate title that I found this article under, which was Florida Man Goes Boating Despite Tornado Warning.
Oh.
So there's
That's
the other
kinda sick.
context.
I have to respect the chaos.
Yeah. I mean, as expected, his boat didn't fare too well and, took on water. He had to call 911. The Coast Guard came and rescued him. And the Coast Guard weren't even able to get the boat itself. They just rescued the person, which rightly so.
Yeah, good
We
idea.
want to rescue the person first before the boat. But the Coast Guard said the boat will be recovered by a commercial salvage company. So there's a good chance it is still there, sitting somewhere between the top and the bottom of the ocean. But I have to ask this. I mean, the obvious answer is it's Florida, but why would you go boating in a tornado warning? That would be like last week when we had the state of emergency and somebody going out to buy donuts.
I mean, look, I know it's not the most responsible thing in the world, and there's lots of ways it could go wrong, but I feel like boating in a tornado, like if it goes well, it could be so fun, right? Like all the waves and all the wind, you're moving around. It's like a boating roller coaster. It sounds really nice if you could just make it work.
Boat is meant for.
It's a shame because I understand it's a very impractical thing. I don't think,
like you said, if it goes right, it's a very tempting thing to do.
Yeah,
because you could be like, hey, what's up? I boated in a tornado.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately is not the story we're covering today. That would be a pretty cool one to do.
That'd be nice.
Like, Florida man boats in a tornado, flies 500
And
feet
just-
in the air or whatever, and survives.
and has the time
unfortunately,
of his life.
yeah. But unfortunately, it's like, no, he sank a little.
Yeah. His boat got destroyed.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate because I'm sure
No, it's
it was a
shame.
nice boat, but he knew the risk. At least I hope he did. But my other benefit of the doubt is he was out there already, didn't know about it, and therefore is now facing this precaution.
Yeah, when you take your boat out, it's a lot of work. I assume. I don't know. I don't.
I mean, I'm
I
sure
don't
they
go
have
on boats.
radios to let you know like what's going on, and I'm sure he was
Yeah.
probably listening to something like, oh, I don't know, 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. He could have, if the boat has a radio, he could have enjoyed.
Yeah, he's like, I can't go back to the docks. This David Rush interview is fire, man. I gotta stay and listen.
I mean, I don't blame him.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe he did it because it's Florida. Maybe he was already out there and didn't know. There's a million possibilities that we don't know about, but unfortunately, he didn't make it too far. His boat took on water, but fortunately, he was rescued and uninjured. And then Petty Officer First Class Brian Halley had to say, yeah, if the weather's bad, don't go out to sea, which is like one of those warnings you see on a McDonald's coffee where it says, warning, may be hot. We're like, yeah, unfortunately, that needs to be told to people. And here it is, the Florida equivalent of it. Because a hot coffee is just a hot coffee warning is not going to cut it in Florida. It's too mundane. You need, hey, if there's a twister, don't go outside. Use common sense.
Just put signs up.
Yeah. Just like have the little buoys bobbing. Like, if there's a tornado, turn around. Oh, goodness. But sticking with aquatic stories, I'm not looking forward to this one. Jake,
This is
please
so
take
funny.
please take away the most horrifying story I've ever read in my
Bro,
life.
what a headline. Okay. Wife convinced husband he had Alzheimer's.
What? No, the other one about the fish.
I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I just saw that. I thought it was really funny.
Well, yes,
You'll
we'll
get to that. Don't
but
worry.
I
why
specifically
did
mentioned
it-
water stories.
Oh, okay. Stay tuned to find out why the wife convinced the husband that he had Alzheimer's. But for now, a horrifying parasite masquerading as fish tongue found in Texas State Park. Okay. A worker at Galveston Island State Park in Texas found a fish with a parasite in its mouth that replaced its tongue. The parasite was an isopod from Symmothoa.
Symmothoa, yeah.
Symmothoa. Okay, genus. Females of this species are known to drain the blood from the fish's tongue until the organ withers and dies and then replaces the tongue where it can continue the feed for years. Mark Fisher, a science director at Texas Parks and Wildlife, explained parasites like these are quite common in some fish species.
Ugh.
Whoa.
It's horrible. And you're just reading the article. You didn't see the pictures that came with this thing.
Yo, someone was looking at the fish and was like, wow, this thing's tongue is kind of sus.
That's exactly what happened. He's like, this tongue has a lot more legs than usual.
Kyle,
Yeah.
I saw the pictures. I have no emotion towards it.
Really?
Wait,
I felt physically nauseous looking at them. I'm like, I'm gonna be sick.
There's no emotion for me looking at
Okay.
a bug replacing a tongue.
Oh, please stop. Stop it. I physically can't do it. All right,
That
I'm going to
is
ask
really
this question.
crazy.
It's going to seem far-fetched, but trust me, it relates back. Have any of you watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
No.
Never mind.
Sorry, we're not cool.
Okay, I didn't say that. But yeah, then this point has no relevance here. Moving on. Yeah, worst story I've ever read in my, I don't know, year and a half career on the Morning Buzz. I hate it. I hate the pictures. I hate everything about this. It's disgusting. I don't love it. That's my opinion. Anyone else?
It's cool to know that, like, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of Alien,
Okay, fair.
you know, and I don't know. That's kind of cool.
It's cool, but to think about it is, and to see it is
I mean,
horrifying.
Yeah, I will
Something
not
ever
believe it.
happens to your tongue, you could replace it
No.
with a parasite.
No, this is not. You don't want to do that. You understand what a parasite is, right? They're not good.
Yeah, no, they're not good. You don't want to
Unless
do
you're talking
that.
about the movie, then
Parasite, that's a
heard.
very good movie. Yes.
So I've heard. I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet. Like I said, I'm bad with anything mainstream.
Yes.
Allie, do you have anything to add to this?
Just thinking about it grosses me out.
Yep.
I do not want to see the photos, nor will I go out of my way to see the photos. I think it's disgusting.
That's
And-
fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. I had the displeasure of having to look at them. And it's like a car crash. It's like, I don't want to look at this, but I can't look away. At
Hot
least that's
take.
how I reacted to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw the photos just now, and they're not pretty, but
No, they're not going for any beauty pageants anytime
Yeah.
soon. But moving on, the story Jake promised you earlier.
oh yeah.
Jake, take it away.
Okay, so why'd she do it? Why did the wife convince the husband that he had Alzheimer's? Well, it was so she could steal $600,000 from him, police say. So this is the story of Donna Marino, who is facing jail time for she's getting convicted
Yeah.
for convincing her husband that he had Alzheimer's so she could steal money from him. Donna is accused of forging her husband's signature on a variety of legal documents, pension checks, monetary settlements, and social security checks, defrauding a total of over $600,000 over the course of 2 decades. Additionally, she used her status as an attorney to file taxes under her husband's name. Marino sold some of her husband's possessions as well as jewelry and rare coins. The police first got a complaint from the husband in 2020 when he said his wife, Donna, has ownership of all his finances and has been stealing money from him as far back as 1999. In order to keep her husband from catching on, Donna convinced him that he had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. John, the husband, has a history of Alzheimer's in his family and was fearful of a diagnosis himself. Donna used the money to help other family members with rent, groceries, etc. Aw.
That's cruel.
Underhanded and shady, indeed.
Mm.
I hope
It's-
John's doing okay.
That's unfortunately he's not too much. They had a little section where they talked to his granddaughter, and she said he's broke. He has nothing anymore.
Oh no.
It's horrible.
Oh,
Like, not only there's nothing about this that's good. Like, not
Yeah.
only are you stealing money from somebody and just filing fake taxes, stealing their possessions, signing pension checks, whatever, you're also convincing them they have a horrible disease
yeah.
just to save your skin. Like, it's one thing to steal from somebody. Underhanded, I don't recommend it. I don't endorse it. I hate
Kind
it.
of cringe.
That's one way to say it. But then to go as low as convince somebody that they have a fatal disease that they are fearful of already because it's in their family history is just, there's a special place for you.
Mm.
And I'm not talking about jail.
And you're definitely not talking about up above.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Yep.
But it is sickening to read this. The Ghost of Kenny has dubbed it anti-heaven. That's where I predict.
That's a I think that's a positive phrase for that.
Exactly. Yeah. Positive radio friendly way to say it. But oh my goodness, I'm sick that I even had to read this article today for the buzz. I mean, I probably would have been better off not knowing it happened, but then again, that would be ignorance, and that's not always my favorite thing. So it hurts me to know that people like this exist in the world, and it hurts my soul that I had to read this. And this poor man, who I believe is now living with his granddaughter, has nothing. But fortunately, he also doesn't have Alzheimer's. So
That's
It's
nice.
good on that front. Yeah. So that was my rant. What are
Mhm.
your thoughts on this one?
I feel bad for him. I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's like an
it's
awful thing to go through.
Yeah, and it's sad because I know I actually have a family member, extended family member, whose mother uh has dementia,
Right.
and she has early onset dementia and Alzheimer's and whatever differentiates you want to talk about it, and it's horrible. It's a horrible disease. Um, I mean, this woman literally told her husband that he had Alzheimer's
Yeah.
when in fact that he didn't, and and the fact that his side of the family has a history of it
Exactly.
adds fuel, because it's so disgusting to see how people are these days, in which they like say and do things just to get leverage for themselves,
Right. Exactly.
and it's just I just don't like it.
Yeah.
No, I don't
I don't
think
know.
anyone does.
Yeah. I don't know. It is honestly, I gotta say, a little sad for me to see that this money was used to like uh, help out, like, rent and groceries, because it's like, it's really what's kind of like to fulfill basic needs. And it's like, if
Right.
that's, what people are resorting to, because that's what the people feel they have to, it's like, I don't know. It's very sad.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
like, I don't, the amount of stuff she did, like,
Yeah.
okay, you can
no.
look at this. Oh, she was helping family members out with the basic needs, yada, yada. But the amount of stuff she did going the other way on the good evil spectrum, to put it, it doesn't cancel out.
No, of course not. But it's like, I don't know. It goes to show like what people are willing to do when they're desperate.
Right. But we don't know how
Yeah, I guess that's
desperate they
true.
are.
But
Like, this could have just been, hey, I don't feel like paying for gas. Can you lend me money? She's like, sure, here's $600,000. It could be something like that. We don't know if they are like really struggling, or if they're just like, hey, here's a 20. You don't have to pay for groceries this week.
yeah, maybe.
So it depends. I guess it depends on how bad her family was struggling. Yes, they used in the article, they used the words to like help out with, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're in dire need of. Also, it's $600,000. I know gas prices are high. They're not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So,
Oh, well, this was over the course of 2 decades.
that too.
So it's like, I don't know. Like 600. Okay. I'm not trying in any way to play devil's advocate, but
Right. Yeah, I know.
it is.
But
yeah, it's just something to consider.
right. And 600,000 over 20 years. Is that
That's
a
not-
lot, or
I don't know. Like when you think about like using $600,000 like in over
Yeah.
20 years, just like, I don't know.
That's
feel
true.
like-
But to have it, if that's all you, like I said, he is essentially broke now. So if that's all you have over 20 years,
Yeah.
then I feel like that's a lot.
That's like what, 30,000 a year?
I can't
think-
do mental math, but I think so. Well, it's just 600,000 divided by 20.
Yeah.
Cross out the zero on each. 60,000
Oh,
divided
no,
by 2.
no,
Yeah,
no.
30,000 a year. Math, everybody. And Kenny can check that in the background, as he is the former math
Yeah.
major. So we'll just wait for Kenny's response. See if I got an A+ on the math test. But until then, we have more stories going on. This one is gonna sound weird, but stick with me. Luton man left shocked as his house is stolen. The entire house.
Wow.
A man in Luton, England, returned home to find his house was sold without his knowledge. Mike Hall came home and found his house was under building work and had a new owner who claimed they bought the property. An investigation by the BBC shows that someone had stolen Mr. Hall's identity and used it to sell his house. Mr. Hall received a call from one of his neighbors saying that somebody was inside his house while he was away working in Wales. When he arrived home, he found his key no longer worked. When the man opened the door, he explained that he was doing building work, to which Hall replied saying, quote, "I haven't sold this house. This is still my property," end quote. The police were called, and they, Mr. Hall, and the new owner of the house looked at the registry, and it appeared as though a legal transaction was made. The police told Hall that it was a civil dispute at this point, and they would have to work it out themselves. However, the police's fraud department are conducting an ongoing experiment to see what happened here, because it's not every day you kind of just lose ownership of your house by unconsciously selling it.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say in this one, because it's horrible and there's nothing he can really do about it without the proof. Like, at least according to the BBC investigation, they said, yeah, somebody stole your identity and sold your house with it. But he doesn't know who, he doesn't know how to get it back. And that being said, if he does get it back, now you have this new owner who just bought it that is now out of a home. So the only way I can see this working, and I thought this something along these lines would be in the article, is that they were going to decide for the time being, live together, but they didn't. The article, I mean, it would work, wouldn't it?
It's like the setup for like an odd couples sitcom.
It could be, but in all seriousness, it could be a temporary solution.
Yeah, come on, don't you want some roommates?
Yeah,
why not?
I mean, Jake, you and I both live on campus. We can tell that's not always sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, but
yes, it could work out. Granted, they get along, but unfortunately, the article didn't really go into what they were going to do. It focused more on like, here's what happened. Investigation still ongoing. That was the bulk of it, which I would have loved to read more, because I really want to know how this happens. I mean, obviously, once they have your identity, they can really do almost anything with it. They can live your life, which whether they did, they sold his house, but
I find it crazy that the police like said that there was basically nothing that they could do about it. Like, I find that very interesting.
Yeah, I know.
And I understand why they can't, but I feel like he can't really do much on his own. So I feel like he needs help.
Yeah, I mean, they are conducting the investigation, but like you said, it's weird that they said, hey, we can't do anything, but what can they do? They don't have, it's not like there's another person there being like, oh yeah, I'm the one who stole his identity and sold his house. See you later, and walks. He's just not there at all.
Yeah.
So on paper, it's Mr. Hall sold his house to this new person. Everything was legal. Everything was regulated, yada, yada, yada. When in reality, that's probably not what happened, but they can't prove that, which is what makes this so
I feel like they should be able to prove it. Like,
I mean, they, in a way they could, but at the moment, I don't think they have enough evidence in order to do that. Like, once they find the correct stuff, like I said, the person who stole the identity, they can probably work something out if the current solution is not live together for the time being, like I proposed. But I don't think they have that yet. They don't have what happened, what's going on. And even the solicitors refused to cooperate. They said, quote, "We will continue to cooperate with the police and comply with our professional obligations," end quote. And that's all that's happened. I got nothing. I literally don't know what to say, because it is just so out there.
Yeah, one thing I want to say is I don't know, whenever sometimes I see stories like this of people kind of committing these like just these kind of insane acts of fraud and stuff like this, it's like, okay, so this is bad, right? I don't like this, but also like I almost have to respect the gall, you know, in a way. Like, wow, you really just went up to a house and said, yeah, this is mine. And like went through the whole legal process to sell a house
I don't
that
know if
wasn't yours and
respect is the
pretend
right word.
yeah, maybe respect. I don't know. I have to, yeah, I like, it's just
Acknowledge.
like, yeah, I
Acknowledge is
have to
probably the
look
better
at
word.
it and kind of, because like, wow, how do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, this is very similar to the other story with Donna, just scamming somebody out of everything they have,
Well, I
scamming
mean,
them
if
out of
you're
their
able
livelihood.
to, I don't know. I feel like if you're able to like convince someone that they have Alzheimer's because they have like reasons to, and I don't know, maybe they have something they can construe as symptoms. It's like, okay, like that works. But well, no, it doesn't work. It's not good.
Yeah.
But, like,
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, you were confusing me for a second.
I'm just saying it's this. It would take a lot of confidence. It would take a lot of.
Both of these stories,
and
the
it's
people,
just bizarre.
yeah, the people involved in both these stories have some audacity
Yeah.
to even attempt something like this. Because if this doesn't work, which it didn't in Donna's case, or at least eventually it didn't, yeah, you're not gonna have a fun time for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Which makes it all the more kind of insane that they're just they just jump right into it.
It's not obviously, as a station, we don't endorse or encourage any of this, but the audacity to do either of these two things, is ridiculous, insane, and in both cases, in my personal opinion, is underhanded and shady. Moving on, we have a story about bears. Bears raid leftover KFC from California man's kitchen counter. From UPI.com, a California man returned home to find not his house being stolen, but two bears in his house, one of which was helping themselves to some leftover KFC. Upon arriving home, John Holden saw a bear outside his house and his front door wide open. While investigating further, he saw another bear inside his home enjoying a bucket of KFC that was left on the counter. While Holden has come across bears outside of his home before, he claimed they never physically entered his house before, saying, quote, I've had a lot of other encounters with them. I've actually had them bump into me a couple of times in the backyard, but definitely never in the house like that. That was something else, and they sure made a mess of the place, end quote. All right. Question number one. If you see a bear outside your house and the front door wide open, why do you go in and not the other way? As like fast as possible.
How did the bear open the door? That's what I'm curious about.
Bears have hands, right? Like they could, like
yeah. I don't think they have opposable thumbs though.
Yeah, but
so
they could,
depending on what kind of knob it is,
yeah,
they probably couldn't turn it.
Right
of course,
knob,
it doesn't say.
But do they have the intelligence to be like, oh yeah, you have to turn this knob to open the door?
I don't know. And if they don't have the intelligence to turn the knob, they have the brute force to knock it down.
True.
Which the article does say wide open, but I'm curious to know if that means off its hinges. Or, they could have burst it open without it coming off the hinges. It probably just would have broken the lock. At least if I'm going off of what I've seen in movies, and like when the FBI in movies bust down the door stays on its hinges relatively well.
It might not even been like a 4th century thing. It might have just been up and locked, and it just kind of.
That is true.
Pushed it open.
Very true. But I have so many questions for this man. First of all, if you encounter bears on like a regular basis outside of your house, how do you either A, not become singing friends with the woodland creatures, or B, move out of there as fast as possible? Those are my two options. It's either befriend the bears or, they just own the land now.
I mean, from the sounds of it, it sounds like he did the first one. Like he just talks about like, oh yeah, I like bumped into a couple of bears a couple of times. Like he talks about like bumping into like a friend.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, Josh, I bumped into him. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
and that bear. Yeah, I bumped into him while I was raking leaves.
We had lunch at Danino's.
Yeah.
He's cheap. He doesn't split the bill. I don't know. Well, at least according to the story, these bears are freeloaders. They just took his KFC and you know,
I mean, I
trashed
don't
the
know.
place and left.
I feel like taking someone's KFC, you're doing them a favor.
Yeah, honestly.
Jeez, I mean, not wrong, but wow. But they also made a mess of the place, which
That
come
is
on.
sad. Yeah.
Show
But
some
they're
respect,
Bears. They don't
Bears.
know any better.
We don't come through and make a mess.
Next time
wait
they'll
a
fold the
minute.
blankets.
They'll
Yeah.
fold the blanket. I was just reminded of this. I forget how long ago it was, but the story of the bear who broke in to play piano in one of the houses.
What?
Yeah. And it's so I never read the actual story for that one, but I saw one of those Instagram posts. It was like, bear breaks into house to play piano and he doesn't do very well. And one of the comments was, he's trying his best.
Yeah.
But I guess it is true what our associate programming director, Ben Petrick, always says. Watch out for bears. You never know when they're going to steal your lunch. But that being
Absolutely.
said, what, Jake?
I said absolutely use code Ben.
I was gonna
Yes,
say
if
that.
anyone is interested, use code Ben for nothing. It doesn't get you a thing. But that being said, that's going to bring us to the end of our show today of the Tuesday edition of the Morning Buzz of Fall of 2021. Got it this time.
Yay.
I'm your host, Kyle Pepitone, joined with our co-host, Jacob Goetz, our newscaster, Ali Arario, and our sportscaster, Campbell Donovan. Thank you all so much. We will be back next week. And tomorrow you will have a new cast for the Morning Buzz here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. And stay tuned for a special edition of King's Chaos coming up next.